N.W.A. Straight Outta Compton. N.W.A.'s 1988 debut, Straight Outta Compton, was the album that brought West Coast gangster rap to the center of American culture. It painted a vivid picture of life in Los Angeles, police harassment, poverty, and gang culture, with a level of raw detail that most mainstream audiences had never heard before. The track, F the Police, quickly became the focus of the backlash. It called out law enforcement for racial profiling and abuse of power, and it was so direct that the FBI sent a warning letter to the group's label. Police groups across the country protested the song, and politicians used it as proof that rap music was dangerous. This marked one of the first times the US government openly responded to a rap record. The rest of the project followed the same unfiltered approach. Songs about gang life, survival, and economic struggle gave listeners a close look at conditions in Compton. MTV banned the video for the title track, which only boosted the group's reputation for being too real for mainstream TV. Critics accused the group of glorifying crime and misogyny, but fans argued that they were documenting the environment they grew up in. The cover was Eazy-E, pointing a gun toward the camera as the group looks down. It matched the music's confrontational tone and made the project feel less like entertainment and more like a statement. Even with bans and boycotts, the record went platinum and spread nationwide. Straight Outta Compton ended up bigger than just an album. It forced national conversations about censorship, race, policing, and artistic freedom. It established N.W.A. as pioneers of West Coast hip-hop and set the stage for the rise of the gangster rap in the 1990s. Nas, Untitled. In 2007, Nas announced plans to title his 9th album saying he wanted to take the power out of the slur. The decision immediately drew backlash from community leaders, politicians, and media outlets. Reverend Jesse Jackson called the title offensive, while New York Assemblyman Hakeem Jeffries urged officials to pull state pension investments from Universal, the parent company of Nas's label, unless the name was changed. Despite public criticism, Island Def Jam chairman L.A. Reid supported Nas's creative choice. But by May 2008, Nas decided to change the name to simply Untitled, saying that getting the music out mattered more than fighting over the title. Even without the word on the cover, listeners understood the original intent. When the album dropped in July 2008, it debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, with over 187,000 first-week sales, and later went gold. The project included politically charged songs like Sly Fox, which directly criticized Fox News for racism and negative coverage of Barack and Michelle Obama during the 2008 election. Nas also joined a protest outside Fox's headquarters, the same week the album topped the charts. Between the original title, the cover art referencing slavery, and the lyrical focus on race and politics, Untitled became one of the most controversial albums in Nas's career. It solidified his role as an artist willing to confront social issues directly through his music. Tupac, Tupacalypse Now. Tupac launched his solo career in 1991 with Tupacalypse Now, a debut that focused on racism, poverty, police brutality, teenage pregnancy, and drug abuse. The record stood out because it tackled subjects that were rarely discussed in mainstream rap at the time, using direct and personal storytelling. The controversy began after a 19-year-old in Texas killed a state trooper, and the defense attorney argued that Tupacalypse Now had influenced the act. Vice President Dan Quayle publicly condemned the album and pressured Time Warner, which owned part of Interscope Records, to pull it from the shelves. He claimed the record had, quote, no place in society. Critics singled out the track Soulja Story, saying its depiction of violence during a traffic stop echoed the real incident. Tupac defended his work, explaining that his lyrics were not meant to encourage violence, but to show what young black men experience daily. He pointed out that movies and TV regularly showed the same kind of content without facing the same backlash, arguing that rap was being unfairly targeted. The pushback ended up increasing attention around the album. Instead of being silenced, Tupac's message spread further, helping him build a reputation as one of hip-hop's most outspoken voices. The controversy laid the foundation for his rise as an artist who blended music with political and social commentary. Eminem, the Marshall Mathers LP. Eminem's 2000 release, the Marshall Mathers LP, became one of the most controversial albums in rap history for its graphic violence, misogyny, misogyny, and attacks on celebrities. Songs took aim at pop stars like Christina Aguilera, Britney Spears, and NSYNC, while others focused on his ex-wife Kim and his own mother. The mix of personal references and extreme storytelling blurred the line between fiction and reality. Women's rights groups, government officials, and public figures condemned the record. Lynn Cheney, wife of Vice President Dick Cheney, publicly criticized it, and Canadian authorities briefly considered blocking Eminem from performing during his anger management tour. Even the original cover art, Eminem sitting with alcohol and pills, drew backlash and was later changed. Despite protests, the album was a massive commercial success. It sold 1.78 million copies in its first week, topped the Billboard 200, and went 11 times platinum in the US. It also won Best Rap Album at the 2001 Grammy Awards. XXXTentacion, 17. X released his debut album 17 in 2017, centering on themes of depression, heartbreak, and mental health. The stripped-down production and emotional delivery connected deeply with young listeners, but the raw and unpolished sound also divided critics and audiences. The controversy surrounding the project was tied to X's personal life. At the time, he faced serious legal charges involving domestic abuse against his then-pregnant girlfriend. This led many to question whether his music could be separated from his actions. Spotify even removed his songs from promoted playlists under a hateful conduct policy, though the decision was later reversed after backlash from artists like Kendrick Lamar. Tracks like Jocelyn Flores, written in memory of a girl who had taken her own life after visiting him, drew both praise and criticism. The family of Jocelyn Flores said they were not consulted before the song was released, raising questions about how X used her story. Other songs such as F Love and Everybody Dies in Their Nightmares continued the project's focus on loss and despair. Despite the controversy, the album debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200, sold 87,000 copies first week, and later went triple platinum. Songs like F Love became one of the most streamed tracks in SoundCloud history. 17 remains one of the most debated rap albums of the 2010s. Public Enemy, Fear of a Black Planet. Public Enemy's 1990 album, Fear of a Black Planet, expanded their reputation as one of the most politically charged groups in hip-hop. The project followed controversy from 1989, when group member Professor Griff made anti-Semitic remarks in an interview. The backlash led to his removal under pressure from Def Jam and community leaders, though he was later reinstated, fueling further debate about the group's direction. The album addressed race, media, and inequality with songs that directly challenged American institutions. Fight the Power, first released on the soundtrack to Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing, became both an anthem and a lightning rod for criticism due to its attacks on cultural icons like Elvis Presley and John Wayne. Burn Hollywood Burn called out racism in the film industry, while 911 as a Joke criticized poor emergency response in black neighborhoods. Even the title, Fear of a Black Planet, sparked controversy. Chuck D explained that the phrase represented how society constructs racial divisions to preserve power, not a biological truth. He framed black pride as an act of self-defense against systemic inequality. The record became a landmark in hip-hop by showing how rap could function as activism as well as music. While it stirred outrage, it also reinforced Public Enemy's role as outspoken truth tellers and cemented their influence on socially conscious rap. Chief Keef, Finally Rich. Chief Keef released Finally Rich in December 2012 at age 17. Introducing Chicago drill music to a national audience. The album's tracks like Love Sosa and I Don't Like highlighted violence, gang rivalries, and life on the South Side, which drew criticism for glorifying crime, while supporters saw it as an authentic reflection of his environment. One of the most controversial aspects was Keef dissing deceased rivals in his lyrics, including Tuka, a teenager killed at a bus stop in a suspected gang-related incident. This type of direct reference to the dead influenced a trend that later became common in drill rap. Keef's own legal troubles also fueled the backlash. In December 2011, before the album dropped, police responded to reports of shots fired and said Keef pointed a weapon before fleeing. He was arrested, charged with aggravated assault, and sentenced to house arrest, during which he filmed the I Don't Like video. The song gained national attention after Kanye West released a remix, pushing Chief Keef into the mainstream. Despite concerns from community leaders and critics, the album reached a wide audience and played a major role in shaping drill music's rise. Insane Clown Posse, The Great Milenko. Insane Clown Posse released The Great Milenko in 1997 through Disney-owned Hollywood Records. Hours after it hit stores, Disney pulled the album and dropped the group from the label. The company said the decision was based on explicit content and violent themes, though it came after criticism from groups like the Southern Baptist Church. The sudden removal fueled national headlines and debates about censorship. Fans saw it as proof the group was being unfairly targeted, while critics pointed to the horrorcore lyrics, graphic violence, and anti-establishment themes as reasons the album was unsuitable for Disney's brand. Despite the controversy, The Great Milenko continued to sell through other distributors and eventually went platinum in 1999. The backlash strengthened ICP's reputation as outsiders in hip-hop and deepened the loyalty of their fan base, the Juggalos. Ice Cube, Death Certificate. Ice Cube released Death Certificate in October 1991, months before the Los Angeles riots. The album was divided into two sides: the death side, which depicted gang violence, drugs, and poverty, and the life side, which promoted black pride and cultural empowerment. Several tracks sparked major controversy. Black Korea was condemned for its threats towards Korean American shop owners following the killing of Latasha Harlins, and No Vaseline became infamous as a diss track against N.W.A. The album cover, showing Uncle Sam on a morgue gurney, added to the backlash. In the United Kingdom, Black Korea and No Vaseline were removed from the release due to concerns about inciting racial tension. In Oregon, stores were banned from displaying Ice Cube's image. Despite limited promotion and censorship, the album debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200, sold over 105,000 copies in its first week, and was later certified platinum. 2 Live Crew, As Nasty as They Wanna Be. 2 Live Crew released As Nasty as They Wanna Be in 1989. The album featured sexually explicit lyrics and artwork that immediately drew attention from politicians and community leaders. Its single, Me So became a national hit, reaching number 26 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 1 on the rap charts. In 1990, a Florida judge ruled the album legally obscene, making it the first rap record to receive such a ruling. Record store owners were arrested for selling it, and members of the group were detained after performing the songs live. The group argued this violated their First Amendment rights and fought the case in court. In response, they released Banned in the USA, which carried the first ever parental advisory sticker. The album directly addressed the legal battle and criticized officials like the Broward County Sheriff who had targeted them. The case became a landmark moment in the fight over censorship in hip-hop, with 2 Live Crew ultimately winning their appeal and securing broader protections for rap lyrics under free speech. Tyler the Creator, Goblin. Tyler the Creator released Goblin in May 2011 as his major label debut. The album featured violent, misogynistic, and provocative lyrics that drew immediate backlash. Songs like She were criticized for glorifying stalking, while the viral video for Yonkers, which showed Tyler eating a cockroach and hanging himself, sparked further controversy. The track Radicals became a flashpoint in 2019 when a student at the University of South Alabama wrote its lyrics in a library and was accused of making threats, showing how the album's content continued to spark debate years later. Tyler also faced restrictions abroad. In 2015, he was temporarily banned from entering the United Kingdom due to his lyrics, and he cancelled a planned tour in Australia amid similar controversy, though he was later allowed to perform in both countries after the bans were lifted. Despite these challenges, the album broke Tyler into the mainstream and established him as one of the most polarizing new voices in rap at the time. Snoop Dogg, Doggy Style. Snoop Dogg released Doggy Style in November 1993, only months after being charged in a highly publicized murder case. The legal battle put him under intense media scrutiny and added to the controversy around the album's release. The project debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200, selling over 800,000 copies in its first week, one of the strongest openings of the decade. Songs like Murder Was the Case took on new meaning in light of Snoop's legal troubles, even though it had been written before the incident. The album faced criticism for explicit content, violent themes, and its portrayal of women. Tracks like Serial Killer and Ain't No Fun were singled out by activists and politicians as examples of gangster rap's negative influence. The cartoon-style cover art, which featured sexual imagery, also added to the controversy. Despite the backlash, Doggy Style went quadruple platinum within a year and became one of the most influential West Coast rap debuts of all time. Dr. Dre, The Chronic. Dr. Dre released The Chronic in December 1992 under Death Row Records. records. The album blended heavy funk samples with gangster rap lyrics and was closely tied to the aftermath of the Los Angeles riots earlier that year. Tracks like The Day the Took Over directly reference the unrest following the Rodney King verdict around the killing of Latasha Harlings. The project drew controversy for celebrating weed culture, using violent and misogynistic lyrics, and strengthening Death Row's image as a label rooted in street culture. Dre's feud with former N.W.A. member Eazy-E also played out on the record, adding to its notoriety. An unreleased track called Mr. Officer, leaked years later, revealed Dre's criticisms of LAPD chief Daryl Gates, further tying the album to debates about police brutality. Despite the backlash, The Chronic peaked at number 3 on the Billboard 200, sold over 300,000 copies in its first week, and went triple platinum by the end of 1993. It became one of the most influential rap albums of its era, establishing the G-Funk sound and launching Snoop Dogg's career.